Thomas Mantle. On January the 7th of 1948, Kentucky State Patrol started getting calls that there was a large object with a diameter of about 300 feet flying over Maysville and heading slowly west. The State Patrol in turn reported the object to the military. People on the nearby military base and local witness watched the object as it either hovered motionless or moved slowly. After an hour and a half, the base sent 4 F-51 Mustangs led by 25-year-old Thomas F. Mantle to investigate. At 22,000 feet, 3 out of the 4 planes had stopped climbing, but Mantle continued on. Eventually, he reached over 30,000 feet, and then his plane went into a spin and crashed. The official explanation is that the UFO was a weather balloon, but ufologists have issues with this explanation. Someone at the fort or one of the pilots would presumably have been able to recognize a weather balloon at 14,000 feet, and the last transmission of Mantle said, "My God, I see people in this thing." The Kinross Incident. On November the 23rd of 1953, an object appeared on the radar at the Kinross Air Force Base. Lieutenant Felix Monclaw and radarman 2nd Lieutenant Robert L. Wilson were sent to investigate. At the base, ground control watched as their jet approached the UFO. The 2 objects merged, and the now single dot disappeared off the radar. Search teams from both the United States and Canada were formed, but no evidence of the plane, the men on board, or the UFO has ever been found. There were 2 official stories given by the Air Force. The first was that Monclaw got vertigo and crashed into Lake Superior. They also theorized that the plane crashed with a Canadian plane, but the Canadian government adamantly denied that. The mystery remains unsolved over 60 years later. Zigmund Adamski. On the afternoon of June 5, 1980, 56-year-old miner Zigmund Adamski went missing while out running errands in Yorkshire, England. He was in a good mood and was looking forward to the wedding of his goddaughter the next day, so it was unusual he would go missing. There was no sign of him until 5 days later, when his dead body was found on a pile of coals 20 miles away in a different town. His body was found at 3:45 p.m, and it wasn't there when the mine yard was last used at 11 a.m. The police noted that his clothes were in good shape, but his shirt, watch and wallet were missing. His body was taken in for an autopsy, and it appeared that he had died from a heart attack between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on the day that he was found. While it's odd enough that a man suffering from a heart attack would climb onto a pile of coal, that was just the beginning. Adamski had been missing for 5 days, but he only had about a day's growth of beard. It also looked like he had been fed and taken care of, except for the burns on his neck and shoulders. They had been there for at least 2 days, and some ointment that the medical examiner couldn't identify had been applied to the burns. One of the police officers that arrived at the coal yard was on patrol on the night of November the 28th, 1980, about a mile from the yard. He claims he had an encounter with aliens himself, and he can't recall 15 minutes from that night. Meanwhile, in California, there was a man named George Adamski who wrote a number of books on aliens and UFOs. People have questioned if the wrong Adamski was kidnapped and killed. The Leeds Mask. On the afternoon of August 17, 1966, 2 engineers, Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, left their home in Campos dos Goiás, Brazil, to supposedly get supplies for work. Hours later, witnesses saw them in Niterói, where they bought waterproof coats and a bottle of water at a bar. A waitress said Viana looked nervous and was constantly checking his watch. After they left, they went missing. A man who was flying a kite found their bodies 3 days later in the mountains. He called the police immediately, although because of the location of the bodies, they could only get to the scene the next day. When they did get there, they found one of the most unusual death scenes ever investigated. The 2 engineers were wearing suits, the waterproof coats, and lead masks over their eyes. The masks appeared to be homemade. They also had a notebook with them that read 16:30, be at the agreed place, 18:30, swallow capsules, after effect, protect meals, wait for a signal, mask. The autopsy didn't determine the cause of death, as their organs had deteriorated too much. There was no way to tell what the pill they wrote about consisted of. It's also unclear what they were writing about, but conspiracy theorists believe the pair had previously made contact with alien life and were going to a rendezvous. The masks and possibly the pill were to protect them from the contact with the UFO or aliens. UFOs were spotted in the area around the time the men died. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Until tomorrow, goodbye.